Thank you, one and all, for tuning in to It's Covered, the insurance podcast, because if you think that insurance is boring, then you are not doing it properly. I'm Paul.
I'm Mel.
Oh, man. So as we started this episode, we're going to do an episode of Is That Covered today, which is a game we occasionally play on the podcast. And we started talking about our last Is That Covered while we're preparing for this one, which has nothing to do with this, but we're just talking about times when, the emergency vehicles are coming through, and you have that one car who's normally in a very strategic position, but that the driver doesn't know what to do. And it's like I always like it when that car is in the left turn lane and everybody's gotten out of the cop's way, and the cop is trying to turn left, that person's trying to turn left.
Yeah.
And everyone in the intersection stopped. The intersection is perfectly clear, but that car is like, but it's a red light.
Yeah. Thinking he's going to get a ticket while this police officer is showing him the road.
The cop is not going to give you a ticket right now. He's got other concerns in life.
Oh, yeah.
But oh my goodness. That has nothing to do with our episode today. So for those who are new to Is That Covered? This is a game that we actually started playing this game when we were focusing more on our YouTube channel, right, instead of a podcast. But what it is because we are insurance dorks. Occasionally when we are watching a television show or a movie, or we see something in the news, some weird situation, we put our adjuster hats on and go, if I were the adjuster on this, how would I handle it?
Yeah.
And it kind of fills that itch that I have to kind of know the particulars of what the aftermaths of stuff that movies just so rarely go into. It really occurred to me, that's one of the reasons I really liked Spider-Man Homecoming so much, is because if y'all seen the movie, like Vulture's whole business is based on, cleaning up after superhero mess.
Yeah.
And he kind of gets screwed over by the government, who is now awarding basically Tony Stark with an exclusive contract to clean up after Tony Stark.
Right.
Which is
after he already received all of the permits and permission and go ahead.
Yeah.
And then basically got
railroaded
bamboozled.
out.
Yeah.
Right. Because of cronyism.
Yeah.
And that's such a thing that happens. And it's such a thing that happens with government in particular.
Yeah.
But that scratches that itch for me. That I it's like so much happens in these movies, and at the end of the movie, you're just like, yay, we saved the day. And I want to know, it's like, for instance, like an Independence Day, like all the cities are now wiped out, and we're out in the middle of the desert, and we've just won this great victory. So now what?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a cool, kind of a cool thing to think through, and that's why we do this, because we think that's a fun thing to do.
That's right.
Because it's like some people knit.
Yeah, it's fun to wonder, what do you do with that alien spacecraft?
Right, yeah, that just crashed down.
Does it just go into dump? Is it biodegradable? Is it against the law if you throw it in?
Right. Is there any radiation coming off that thing?
That's right.
Gosh, I heard that phrase, some people knit, from a gaming podcast I listened to. Oh. And it was one of the hosts' mom really liked, for those of you who played role playing games online, you know the term level grinding. Mm-hmm. And that's when you're trying to get enough experience in a game to go up a level. And so you just stay in an area, you just fight enemies over and over and over again, and you grind those levels out until you're strong enough to move on. And that's level grinding. And this guy had asked his mom why she likes level grinding, and her response is, some people knit. And it's just this great response of, some people like doing weird things and like doing, and it's just kind of a form of relaxation that you do something weird. And for me and for you, it's like, It's like, hey, that was a cool movie. So how are they gonna clean that up?
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if they have a place to put all that. Stuff like that. So
everybody looks at the movies differently. Yeah. I like the way I look at movies.
Exactly.
Like my wife looks at it a different way. She, every movie that she goes with me to see, if it has anything to do with science fiction, she has to remind me at least 4 to 5 times during the movie that, that's not real, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh. It's like, and thankfully my wife is very much as into science fiction as I am.
Good.
But I have friends who say this, like, so I in detail, like an entire plot that I would have done if I had made Star Wars Episode 8. Mm-hmm. They didn't do that plot. We're not going to go into that. I wasn't a fan, but it wasn't because they didn't do what I wanted them to do. It's just, I didn't think it was that good. But since Episode 8 happened, I now have an entire plot of what I would do if I were in charge of Episode 9. Mm. And I enjoy talking about this with friends, and people go, yeah, same thing. It's like, that's not real, right? I mean,
exactly.
it's just a movie.
Yeah.
To which I respond, some people knit.
There you go.
We're going to make that a thing.
There you go.
I'm going to contact the people in the gaming podcast to let them know that the Some People Knit line was used in an insurance podcast.
And then you can say, whenever they ask you, where did you get that from? You can reply, from your mom.
That's another knitting thing we do.
Yes.
It's your mama jokes.
Your mama jokes.
Oh gosh. We have not gotten to the point at all. This is horrible. I think people are used to us by now, right?
I hope
Especially
so.
These episodes. These are a little bit lighthearted. So we're going to do a kind of a fun one. One of my favorite all-time television series is Breaking Bad.
Yeah. Very good series.
For those of you who have not watched it, it is a story of a high school science teacher, just a brilliant scientist who finds out he has cancer, and he knows that if he dies, he's not going to be providing much for his family. And so he proceeds to use his scientific knowledge to cook meth.
Yes.
And becomes very good at it.
Yes.
And starts things just keep getting worse for him and everybody.
Yes.
It's
the situations that he stumbles into are pretty entertaining to watch him go through it.
It is a great, great show.
Yeah.
So the particular situation that we want to talk about was in a very early episode. And so what happens is he and this guy he's taking on as his partner, his name is Jesse. They're trying to find a place where they can cook in safety and privacy without the cops coming after them.
Yeah.
And so they get this RV, and they drive it out into the desert. So this takes place it was New Mexico, right?
Right.
So yeah, they just drive it out into the desert in the middle of nowhere, way off the beaten path, and just park it there all day and do their thing.
Right.
Though the problem is they accidentally leave the key in the position of the ignition that turns on the little ready light.
Yes.
And since they're there for a very long time, the battery dies.
Yes.
And so they're trying to figure out how to get out of there. And that's the situation of the episode.
Yes.
So, and so we were just sitting there chatting about great series that is, and I was wondering, I was like, okay, well, could they have used roadside assistance in this situation?
It's a good thing to have on your policy.
Right. Absolutely.
And
so I've actually used roadside assistance several times.
Yes.
And Mel, you know why I used it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell the story anyways, despite how embarrassing it is. So like and I've mentioned my old HHR before, and it's a piece of crap car, and I hated it. And I'm so glad it's gone. I hope that somebody's burned it by now, but I don't have it anymore. But the handle on the inside broke, and I did not have the money to fix it. And so to get out of the car, I would roll down the window, open it up from the outside, and then get out. But also the clicker didn't work. With the key fob,
Yes.
didn't work, and it was because it was a special key fob that you had to get it from a Chevy dealership. There wasn't like an aftermarket way to do this. And so that was also too expensive. And so it really got annoying because if I locked the door from the inside while the door was open, then it guaranteed the alarm would go off the next time I entered the car. So I kind of got into the habit of like opening the car from the outside, but leaving it kind of connected in while I was locking the door. And then I would roll up the window. And so it would think I locked the door while I was inside the car so the alarm wouldn't turn on. In all of this, there were several times when I forgot to take the key out of the ignition. So I'd have to call roadside.
Yes.
And I think this was like 3 times. It wasn't like 30. It was like 3. And it was over a few years period of time.
Right. It just seemed like more because they answered the phone. Hello, Paul.
We'll be right out, man. Car running again. Okay, we'll be right there. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I have a feeling that obviously Walter White and Jesse would be nervous about calling anybody out there.
Right.
If there's too many questions. In my experience, tow truck driver doesn't care that much, but some of them probably would.
Right. Yeah.
If they're not poking around too much.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you are cooking, crystal meth.
Yeah.
And you don't have any clothes on. If I remember
that was part of the episode. But the clothes were right there.
Yeah, they were right there.
I mean, they could have just. If you're calling from the tow truck driver, you're going to put your clothes on.
Yeah. You'd have to put your clothes on.
For those who haven't watched the show, they left their clothes outside because they didn't want the stink to get in them. So when they went home, it wasn't, Walter's wife would be like, "Are you cooking meth?"
Yeah.
Maybe.
Exactly.
Oh goodness. So, another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that, roadside coverage on your auto normally covers a ton more than just towing.
Right.
And the industry really did itself a disservice by calling it towing originally. I mean, that was the primary function of it, but the coverages have typically expanded so much as to be all roadside services. So in my cases, they didn't tow my car. They just popped the lock and went on their way. They will give you, a little bit of gas, change a tire, jump the battery. In this case would be really good for that. And in fact, most companies that I'm seeing have stopped calling it towing completely and call it roadside.
Right.
I know our company has several older policies still on the books where it's still called towing, but even in those cases, it is roadside.
Yeah.
It's not simply towing.
Yeah.
And so, the main problem Walter and Jesse would have in this case is actually getting the tow truck driver to find them, which was a big problem in the episode because there was not really much reception.
That's right. And these services rely heavily now on GPS location.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Now that is one of the advantages that we have now is, a lot of, as insurance companies are going more and more to apps, and you've used this before. I haven't used this function, but the app actually has a locator on it.
Yep.
And I'm, this is our specific company, but a lot of companies have this. Now it's like, hey, I need a tow.
Yeah.
Are you here? That looks right. Clicky.
Yep.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
And
a lot better than, what is your nearest cross street and where are you at when you're in a place that you have no clue where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're trying to describe the streets. Yeah.
Right. There's been several occasions when, and I haven't really had to use it, but like, when I got in my accident, thankfully there was a street sign nearby because I was on a street I couldn't remember the name of, crossing a street that I've never heard of,
Yeah.
and so thankfully there was a nearby street sign because I didn't have, well, at the time, I guess I did have GPS on my phone, but I didn't think to use it.
Yeah.
But now I would. But that's a really cool function, and
very good.
People are companies are using technology to make roadside service better all the time. It's still not. I mean, it's still a very
not
low.
foolproof.
Well, it's the entire industry is just not very high satisfaction type of industry. It's not, the customer satisfaction is very low in the roadside business. And, some of it that is deserved. I've had more than one occasion, especially when I was in claims, people would call and tell me it's like, okay, the insurance company set up a tow for you, but they got there and they said, oh, well, they're not covering the whole amount. I need this much in cash. Let's go to an ATM. And that stuff happens and it does not reflect well on the industry. But I think a lot of it also is just the stress of being helpless in a car on the side of a road for a long time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how fast that tow truck driver gets there. It's always going to feel like a long time. It could be 5 minutes. It's going to feel like a long time. And it's going to feel even longer if it is a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've heard stories of people being stuck there for a couple of hours. And so the simple nature of the business, it's not very high customer satisfaction, and the industry has built up a reputation that's not helping that.
Right.
But in the case of Jesse and Walter White, if they could get that message out, that is a function of roadside, if they have that coverage, to come out and jump your car.
Which is, it's a great feature. I mean, I know growing up, a way that you said you needed a jump is you pull out your jumper cables and you stand by your open hood with the jumper cables in your hand, signaling that you need a jump from somebody passing by.
That wouldn't help.
If you're in the desert,
right,
and nobody's coming by,
no one's coming.
In today's day and age with the roadside assistance, that is probably, I know for me, the first thing that pops in my head when anything goes wrong with the car and I'm on the side of the road. Yeah. Instant call roadside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the only other problem that would come up if they managed to get that signal out, obviously they're going to have to wait a long time because they're in the middle of nowhere.
That's right.
But I don't know how much roadside coverage they have, 120, 250, whatever it is, it's probably not going to be enough.
Yeah.
So normally the fees on roadside is how far does the truck have to go to get to you? And then what are they doing when they get there? If they have to drive out several hours to you, you're going to be paying through the nose on that. And so I don't think that would have bothered them all that much in that moment in the desert under the sun. Yeah. Without any clothes. But that's certainly not a situation where your normal coverage is really going to cover all of the cost.
Right.
Normally your roadside coverage policies are designed to cover nearly all circumstances, but not all circumstances.
Right. Yeah. In a situation like this, if you were getting a tow then they may be more lenient on the pricing because the tow's it's gonna cost you some money, and they're gonna get something out of it because it's just a long way. If you're just asking for them to charge your battery or get a jump, they may not be too happy with driving all the way out there for a jump and for the price of a jump usually is. Right. So it may get a little expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, their time has to be built into that.
Yeah.
And so, it's not going to be, it's like, I don't know how much they cost, but if you see a tow truck driver randomly driving by, not doing anything, they'd probably jump you pretty cheaply.
Yeah.
But if he has to drive out 5 hours into the desert,
a few hours of not getting any more lucrative calls,
right? And he's not going to make money during that time, and so he's definitely going to make you pay for it. But we had some. The reason I bring that up is because we had some people in claims that would get into an accident in Oklahoma and want the car towed down to Texas. And that's not what roadside is designed for. It's just not. And so, we'll pay for, however much your coverage is, but they didn't understand. It's like, but it's more than that. Well, yeah, you're going to have to pay for the rest of that, but it's a lot. I'm sorry, Yeah. But yeah, it's like, most insurance, it's designed to cover nearly everything, but not everything.
Right.
And but it is a very good coverage that has been useful to me, actually for both of us, in the past, and so
it's been very
worthwhile. So, not to spoil anything, but this was very early in season 1. It might have even been the second episode. And so Walter White does not die in the desert in that episode. That would make for a very boring series.
Yeah.
If the star was dead in episode 2.
Yeah. That would be rough.
Yeah.
But it's something that we don't get to see, but being in insurance, we know what happened. They needed help.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. Please join us in our Facebook group, our private group, as well. Check out our website, itscover.net. And we will see you next week.
See you later.